Welcome, everybody. My name is Louise Clarke, and I'm on the committee council for Wirritjin Peggera. And today I'm on a call with my good friend Christine Walker, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we came to meet and how our friendships developed over the years since 2016, and how we've come to connect in the beautiful vision of Wirritjin Peggera and my association with Ubuntu and how that all connects. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. How are you, Louise?
I'm well. Nice early morning here in South Africa. I believe it's late afternoon there.
It's afternoon and it's quite rainy.
Oh, really? Yeah. It's warming up here a bit. It's been pretty cold, but we're in the 20s now, so it looks like summer's coming.
Okay.
Yeah. So having been asked to do this interview, it really got me thinking as to how and when I met you in Adelaide at Steve Strong's meeting about the Star Rocks. And that was, I think, mid 2016. Is that right?
I think it was about July that year, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, that was a difficult time for you, having just lost Karno. And I remember the sadness that you were carrying with you. But we really connected at that meeting, and you invited me to come and stay with you, the beautiful Kangaroo Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a good time. That was a good time when you were there. It was beautiful. And yes, we did connect. We connect very strongly, didn't we?
We did indeed. And also for me, coming to see you on your land and to really feel what the Ramangeri were all about, because for me it was so inextricably linked to the land that you were at and the space that you and Karno had created there at Wirritjin.
Wirritjin.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about that space there and what it meant? And
that space there on Ramangeri country on Kangaroo Island was really important to us because we acquired that through cultural reasons and through the Indigenous Land Corporation. And Karno used to train up the youth there in the way of whether it would be in martial arts or whether it would be just them coming to camp for several days and having a cultural experience with Karno. The kids absolutely loved him. And, that wasn't the only thing we did there. Of course, we kind of did cultural tours and took people on and reading the land the way that he did and the stories in the land. It was an absolutely very magical place. And we actually held gatherings there as well, spiritual gatherings, which we call Mamawi.
Yeah.
And which is Mamawi is all the tribes coming together. And we had a lot of people come there to experience that. We're holding another one in October this year at Victor Harbour. The sad part about the country there, or the property, after Karno passed, the Indigenous Land Corporation decided they weren't going to let me stay on the property, even though it was Ramangeri country. So we actually went through, I refused to leave at the advice of the Ramangeri Heritage board members told me to stay fast. I did that and I practically got thrown off by the Indigenous Land Corporation. They threatened police to come remove me and everything, and it was a horrible time just after Karno had passed. Actually made me feel like I'd let him down a little bit. And yeah.
Well, obviously you never really had a say in the matter. It was something that you were forced to leave. I remember that very well because I I helped you set up a campaign of awareness around what was happening, because I know that you and Karno had a vision of Wirritjin, where we were wanting to, or you were wanting to, bring black fella, white fella dreaming together and anchor it in that beautiful space. But the vision as it is, even though it's not grounded in that land, it's actually grounded everywhere. So maybe it doesn't really matter where you are. Uniting the tribes is a global thing. So something we hold in our hearts, it doesn't need to be in a space, and I'm sure that you'll find a new space. Have you any idea of where this will be eventually anchored? Is there a new place on the cards?
There was a new place on the cards. There was a happened, and but that didn't happen either because of politics, or whatever you want to call it. So we've got to work it out and leave the politics alone, leave it out.
Yeah.
Not included in what we want, because we're on a spiritual journey. We're in the truth and honor, which is exactly how Karno lived his life. He never ever ran anyone down. He never said bad things about anybody. And even though there was a lot said about him, but that doesn't matter, because he didn't care what people said. We just kept doing what we needed to do, quietly, step by step, and without bragging about what we were doing. We were just in there doing it because it had to be done. And so I guess when a place needs to happen, it'll happen.
Yeah.
A physical place I'm talking about. And I guess in the meantime, as long as we can get as much of it onto this site that we can, then I think we've actually we're successful in maybe a different way, a different journey. I don't know. I don't know the answers there. I just know how important it is to get it out there.
Yeah.
Because Karno knows that a lot of the youth these days have lost their culture, and that was his way. He wanted them to learn it. So those little ones that's growing up, that's got a void, and they want to find out more about their culture, then this site has to have as much on there as it can, so that these little ones, when we're all gone, have got something they can fall back on.
Yes, a place where they can gather and learn, and where the practice of Wirritjin can be taught to them, and they can actually have a space where they can physically connect with other tribes, and it become a reality. Unfortunately, I never met Karno, but I've been so drawn to the Wirritjin philosophy and the vision, partly because a lot of my work here in South Africa was, and for me, was a spiritual calling that I received when I was traveling in West Africa. In the country of Mali, I went walking along the Niger River, and the only way I can explain it is that it was like a mystical experience. Suddenly I dropped into presence where the sound of the river was clear. There were bare-breasted women washing their dishes in the sand. A man came past in a dugout canoe, and all of those sounds sort of mingled. And then the wind blew, and the wind said to me, "Time to create a new culture." And I said to my partner, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "No." And the wind said again, "Time to create a new culture." And at the time, I didn't actually realize what that meant. Only when I went back to South Africa, went to go and stay in a very remote place, which is called the Transkei, the wild coast of our country. And while we were there, we were living off-grid in a little fishing cottage on the beach, and became really connected with the indigenous local people there. And the more time I spent with them, the more I could see a way of life unfolding. I didn't have a definition for that. And in fact, I used to ask them, I'd say to them, what do you call this? The way that the entire community helps one another. Everybody in the community has a job to do, and everybody works together for the betterment of the whole community. Yeah. And it was only later, a couple of years later, that I found out that this is a very ancient practice in Africa, and it's called Ubuntu. And Ubuntu literally means I am because we are. I am because of you. And I just felt that was such a beautiful vision to hold, and a way of life, because our society has become so divided. And of course, the old way of living and honoring, as Karno spoke and always spoke so beautifully about, is that we're a part of the land, that the Roman Jeri come from a line of teachers and ancestors who revered Mother Earth, and he always brought that into his teachings. And above and beyond our connection to the earth is the connection to all people everywhere. And that really resonated with my understanding of Ubuntu. For me, Wirritjin is just another way of living in that beautiful, profound way, being in loving connection with everybody and in connection with the earth. So that's why I was drawn into being a part of this. And I can't believe it's already been, what, 8 years now, that we've been friends. 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see that regardless of the stumbling blocks and the hurdles, that Wirritjin now is becoming more and more well known, particularly in Australia. But Karno's vision and the vision that the two of you held together is starting to take a foothold, which is really exciting.
I'm certainly excited about it too, because it's something that I had hoped that we could have got done, because Karno was all about a cultural centre as well, so that anybody could come and they could learn, or they can, whatever, we'd have old stuff that we'd have there, evidence of who Ramangeri are, and weaving done by the elders, or anybody, artwork, all that. That's something he always wanted, and he always wanted it. So far we haven't been successful there, but I won't give up. I won't give up until it's actually fruition. Yeah, it comes into fruition, or as Karno used to say, it comes into tuition. Yes. But it's I'm so glad that you're living in the similar, different name, same thing, same thing over there, and you've got this huge understanding of where Karno was coming from.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm walking around like an echidna, with all these knives in my back, because I just won't back down. I won't back down until, and I don't think why should I? Why should I? I'm walking and speaking in Karno's honour and Karno's truth. I'm not fabricating anything, and I'm certainly not trying to step on anyone's toes.
I wouldn't understand why anyone would think that, because what a beautiful gift for the world, in sharing a philosophy that brings people together. That is the only thing that we need now in a world that is so divided, is to as Karno would say, unite the tribes. This is the gift of what Wirritjin is. And it's certainly a gift that you are so relentless, that you are holding this and educating people about it and giving somebody a definition of what it means, because uniting the tribes, yes, it all sounds wonderful, but there's more to it, in understanding how it is to be with other people and why we have to come together, and all of the intricacies about living in harmony with one another. It's something that we haven't grown up with. It's not something that we've been taught. In fact, we've been taught the opposite. And so now Wirritjin is is a gift for everybody in order to bring about a better world.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And if we could all live in that harmony, as you said, what a beautiful world it would turn out to be. You know, the problem is you've got people that actually think that they're boss cocky of whatever it is. You know, they're recognised by the government and all that. You know, and you don't speak for this land, you don't speak for that land. Well, no one speaks for anything. The land speaks to us. You know.
Yes.
And you know, the sooner people realise that, these egotistical people that actually are so greedy, you know, and want to be the power and lead it, you know. Well, if you're going to do that, do it in a proper manner. Do it in a proper manner. Do it in a manner that actually embraces your communities, you know, instead of filling your own pockets. Actually include the communities, you know. And I don't think harmony hurts anybody.
Of course not. There's been so much corruption in the world. I mean, nobody has spoken for the earth in a right fashion. Certainly not when you come to politics or anything. And that's why, as you say, this is not a political movement. This is a spiritual movement. It's a spiritual vision. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the vision from this point on, in terms of Wirritjin and where we headed.
From this point on, well, I think we're having a launch for the YouTube videos on the 12th of August on the full moon, and the full moon is being picked by myself because that's, to me, is where all the sacredness is. You know, you get rid of the old and you bring in the new.
Beautiful.
All that. And so we've got a fellow that actually approached me. His name is David, and I can't pronounce his last name. I know it starts with a Mac, but I don't know what else. And he had come to me after hearing the word Wirritjin. He'd come to me, and we had a meeting at McDonald's at Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah.
And he spoke about Ashala, his spiritual guidance. You know, she guides him. That he was actually going to speak to myself, and then he was going to go and speak to someone that I would not have appreciated, who's actually, since Karno's passing, has tried to push everybody out the way and take over, and he's been quite nasty doing that, quite evil. And so anyway, David come along and we had a talk, and then we had another meeting after that, because he actually explained to me what he wanted to do. And I thought at that time I was skeptical, I must admit, because we'd had that many people come to us at different times, you know, trying to get different cultural centres and all that going. So I thought, is this another one of those, you know? Is this just someone else that just wants something to happen? And so we've been meeting now with the committee, with you as well, a part of that, every Tuesday night. And we've been discussing what we want done next, what we don't. So far we've got the landing page has been launched. And so there's been a little tiny bit of a few donations coming in from that. And then there's now the new launch with all the videos of everybody talking about what Wirritjin means to them. And a lot of those people have actually met Karno, and they know Karno personally. And so we actually just want to get this up on the web page up, so that people, like I said to you before, so the young ones have got somewhere they can go, they can look, they've got a lot of the young ones still today know Karno, and they know of his martial arts, and he used to teach them for nothing, and all the jokes and yarns and all that, so they know what sort of person Karno is. And so I want them to be able to even my own grandchildren.
Yes.
You know, I want them to go on there and fill that void in their heart, and be proud people of who they are, and be proud of their culture, and to be proud of where they come from. and know a little bit, in stories, Dreamtime stories, and all the rest of the culture and the way the old people used to live and whatever else goes on there. And know that some of the relatives actually fought in the war as well, lied about their age and all that sort of stuff, and wanted to fight for their country, even though the country didn't appreciate them.
Right.
They were proud to be an Australian, So they would change their age, and they would actually, go and fight for the country. One of Karno's direct descendants actually was killed in France in the First World War, because he used to go out and bring in the injured, and then he actually ended up getting killed that way. So he got some medals, and I had a phone call from Karno's brother yesterday. This is just to give you an example of the disconnection. David come to the Coorong on Friday night last week to interview a friend of mine up there who knows Karno very well, Karno's auntie. And he was talking about how far away is Rauckham from here. And I said, well, it's not far. And Meryl said, well, we'll take you. He said, I want to go and see the church that's on the song, the song that's sang by our little Jackie Saunders. And it talks about the church on the $50 note. And I said, if you listen to that song properly, you'll hear her say, my mother, Jackie Walker. I said, because Jackie Saunders, she's disabled, and she is Karno's niece. She's the one that sings that song. Now, when Desmond, Karno's brother, rang me up yesterday to see how I was, I told him about that. He didn't even know. He'd never met those two. He'd met the rest of the family, but he hadn't met Jackie, and he hadn't met the younger one. He didn't even know they existed.
Wow.
And he certainly didn't know about that song. So he was going to go and research it and listen to it.
That's beautiful. It's really all coming together. In Australia and in Africa, and we've got a committee member, I believe, also in North America. So
I think so, yeah.
That's a good start. Of course, we're hoping to share this and bring people on board from all over the place, because the interesting thing is that in all cultures everywhere, there is this vision of unity. It's like the original essence of who we are that we're returning to. So I'm quite excited to hear about all of the different translations of Wirritjin. And slowly, as we gather these stories and these strands of unity around the world, Wirritjin will start taking shape. Blackfella and Whitefella will be dreaming together, and we'll be weaving the story. So I'm just excited about it. It's something I've been holding dear in my heart, and to see it actually start coming to fruition, the beginning on this website. So yeah,
I'm excited too. I'm very excited, because I think finally I've done something, something that's going to be valuable to the youth and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And not just some of the the other relatives that are actually in their 40s and 50s, but they really don't, they've disconnected,
Yeah.
So you can just get them to connect back to who they are and give them a proud presence, then we sort of kind of started doing our job, because they feel good about themselves. They're going to make the next person feel good about themselves, and it's going to just keep dominating,
Beautiful. Wow.
Like dominoes falling, it's just going to keep going, keep rolling.
Yes. Well, I'm so grateful to be a part of this, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I think we should wrap it up. I'd just like to say, just after the launch on the 12th, I've written an article in Supernal magazine, Australia. It's a beautiful online conscious magazine that gives a little bit of history, a little bit of story about Wirritjin and how to get involved. So we'll be sharing that on the website too. And next time we connect, we can follow up and see how much further we've taken this and how it's growing.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. And I'm really grateful for you being a part of it, Louise. I really am. As I know how knowledgeable you are too. And and to get that story in the magazine, that was fantastic. That was couldn't have asked for a better job. The way you wrote that, that was beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's aligned again, Supernal Magazine is also working toward the same end. It's educating people about the earth and about spirit and about bringing to light all the beautiful people that are doing amazing things in the world. So we're all working together, and let's see where it goes.
And I just hope we end up to be the minority, not the majority, not the minority.
We will. Once it starts, as you say, once the dominoes start falling, there's no stopping it. Thank you,
Christine. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lovely to catch up, and I'll see you on the next meeting.